right. Thank you, everyone. Let's get started. Thank you for attending today's 30-minute Wednesday webinar. My name is Mike. I am a systems engineer with Variphy, and I am your host. I'm joined today by Matt Sykes. Today, he'll be showing you all the new features in Variphy version 12.2.3. So let's get started with the first webinar of the new year. All right. So for today's agenda, we'll get started with an overview of our company and what we do. Then we'll jump into a demo where Matt will we'll take a look at the new features released in 12.2.3. After that, we'll wrap up with some Q&A. If you have any questions, you can ask them in the Q&A panel in the bottom right corner of your screen. Not the standard chat. There's a separate Q&A panel. It should be, again, in the bottom right corner of your screen. After Q&A, we'll go ahead and reward one lucky attendee with a $50 Amazon gift card, so make sure you stay until the end to see if you've won. Quick overview of Variphy. We are the preferred analytics and management solution for Cisco collaboration. We provide industry-leading CDR reporting, call analytics, customizable dashboards, UCCX real-time wallboard reporting and analytics, remote phone control, macros and broadcast, change management, as-built reporting, DN, DID, and dial plan management. We have a few different solutions available, but today we'll be kind of focusing on all the new offerings in 12.2.3. And before we get started, Variphy now offers Ninja Enhanced Consulting Services, or NECS. What is NECS? Well, it's when one of our systems engineers, like Matt or myself, will engage remotely on a one-on-one basis to provide additional consulting services. It can be anything from like building reports, dashboard configuration, system monitoring. What this does is this provides a dedicated SE to you. We do all the heavy lifting. If someone needs a report, they can contact us directly and we'll create the report for them. If you want any additional information, please let one of us know or speak with your account manager, and we'd be more than happy to go over our consulting services more in depth. With all that said, I want to thank you, everyone, for attending. I'm going to pass the ball to Matt, and let's dig into 12.2.3.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Mike. Welcome, everyone. Matt with Variphy here. As Mike just opened for me, correct, we will be walking through the 12.2.3 GA enhancements in today's webinar. So where I'm starting us out right now is on my website on the variphy.com. Underneath the product section and the What's New page, I just want to take everyone's eyes as a quick walkthrough here real briefly. So you can certainly see, whenever you need to, can see what's recently been shipped as far as enhancements within the application, but certainly what is on the forefront or the horizon. Now, this shipping soon needs to be updated because these are actually shipped, because these entities of enhancements are in the new 12.2.3 enhancement, or GA release, excuse me. So certainly, definitely look at these when you have time if you want to, but certainly these are going to be the list of enhancements we're going to walk through today. Mainly, most of it, and I'll jump back to the top of the page, circled around a new widget that we have for the contact center. So we have a new Csq time period statistical widget with a bunch of other new enhancements and offerings here. So I'll dive right into one of my labs. This board, what we're looking at right now, is one of my CCX specific dashboards or / wallboards. What I'm going to represent here and what I want to show everybody is the new Csq time-based interval reporting widget, which is what a handful of these guys are right here. Certainly all the above widgets have already been in the application for some time. So I don't want to have everyone kind of squint and look at that very 2 inches from the monitor. So I have another board here specifically solely for those widgets. I do believe I have the font punched up here for everyone's eyes, so hopefully everyone can see this. So with the new Csq widget, and I'll just kind of open it real quickly, a fresh one, just to show you kind of what the configurations look like within this widget. It is the Csq time period statistics widget. Let me select a cluster. So on the configuration page of this widget, so a lot of the same particulars that we have within our widgets, but within this one, we now can key off of specific CSQs and then provide the time interval reporting or charting, if you will, that we need to. We can certainly represent the charts in a bar or a line chart. And as well as we always have our interval options for our time units on the x-axis of these widgets. So certainly these time periods, we can break them down all the way out to month, or we can bring them down as granularly to quarter hour of day. So we can certainly do that. But also the main proponent in the configuration of this widget is going to be the statistical types. So now within this widget, we've kind of chopped these into 3 different options for you, and we can easily kind of sort through them. But previously in our the 12.2 release, we actually included the charting reporting for the CCX reports. Within those, I do believe there was a little there is a mention at the bottom of those in the analytics reports, that is, that the reports, or the charting for these styles are plotted on their own. So we're actually following the same form with this widget, because counts and percentages and times being plotted on the same bar chart or line graph would look pretty messy. So we do separate these out. So very easily we can see what all the counts are, what we're including, or giving options to. You can see the laundry list here that we always have. So we have the certain high-level counts: abandoned, handled by other CSQs, and the service levels as well, met and missed. So we certainly have a handful of those. Percentages as well will be kind of following the same suit, abandonment, handled, as well as service levels as well. And time is a little lengthier because there are so many times for the CCX analytics. So we certainly have all of the times: connect, hold, queue, ring, talk, work, all of those with averages, with max, with totals. So we certainly have those baked in for abandoned, for handled, for maxes, and the service levels, met and missed as well. We certainly have a nice long laundry, and the totals as well. So we certainly have a nice long laundry list of that. But the nice thing about this widget is being able to utilize and slice the time periods. So certainly I have my option to slice whatever time period I need to on the widget itself, but then also kind of run the data content for the time period based off of that. So for instance, if I'm running maybe a weekly or a daily CSQ widget, maybe I only want to point at previous day or current week's worth of data range. So certainly we'll take a walk through those right now. And that's pretty much what we have here right now. So I've kind of laid this out here so we can kind of look at this a little more intuitively. This is the same widget style for all of these widgets on this board. Don't worry, we're not walking through all of them, but I will speak to most of them. So now in column A and column B on this wallboard, if you will, these are duplicated. So left and right are exactly the same data contents. I'm just plotting them in a different chart type, bar versus line. So we'll see the statistical information on the y-axis will be the same, as well as the x-axis for the time frame. These are keying off of previous week. Certainly on this, for instance, in this car's counts. So this whole kind of column A and column B, I'm formulating my presentation here on counts specifically, so I'm very heavy on this one. We will touch on to the percentages and times as well. But for the counts, let's take a quick look. So very easily in this this cars CSQ that I have in my lab environment, we're plotting a lot of the counts. So some of the high counts I go to would be total, handled, handled by another script, or definitely abandoned. Now with our widgets and our graphical representations of these widgets, we can also certainly strike bits and pieces out from the legend if we need to. That's always been a constant. So just as an example, if I want to strike out and replot the graph, I can certainly trim out or exclude out anything from the legend, and we'll replot the graph accordingly. So we can certainly slice these as we always have been able to. I always say we can slice the data elements 6-7 different ways to Sunday, but with these time units in this widget, we certainly can. So with the same kind of data content, I'll just kind of scroll down here and we'll look at these cars widgets. So here with the counts, now all I'm doing here is just changing the time frames. I'm keeping the same data sets in the same time period, which is previous week on all of these, but I'm just chopping up the time frames and listing that out differently for these different aggregate intervals on the x-axis. This we're seeing here is by date. Scrolling down, we have by day of week. Also, we have hour of day if we need to get that granular, or we could even go down to quarter hour of day, as I had mentioned as well. But we could also go further out. Maybe we want to see week over week. So then maybe I certainly did key off of a longer time window, and then broke this down by the week breakdown. So we can certainly see what the totals and the handles and the abandonment are over the week by week, going back a previous and current month, as well as then we can also push it out to months. So if we needed to, I'm keying off of a larger data window here. So I'm looking at previous quarter. So if I really wanted to see month over month kind of trending of how this CSQ is performing just based off of these counts alone, certainly we can plot that very easily in the new 12.2.3 release. All right. Scrolling up a little bit, we'll segue over to the percentages. Well, excuse me, I suppose I should maybe speak a little more to the counts. Now, I did not make an example here necessarily for the service level counts. Don't get me wrong, we can most certainly bake those in, or we could have a widget of its own for the service level counts, met and missed for those. Okay. Segueing over to the percentages, I am kind of leaning on the service levels down here, but let's just look at, I guess, the overall kind of handled versus abandoned percentages within this widget. So very straightforward. I mean, we're always going to have, 100% is going to be kind of our high water mark. Obviously, there's not going to be 110%. Certainly, we can add additional percentage pieces on here within the widget as well. So if I wanted to, I could certainly add in aborted, DQ'd count, and any of the service level met and missed percentages, or even maybe the unknown disposition percent. And certainly put this into the available viewable statistics, which actually the max count is 10, but just mentioning that. So certainly we can add in what we need to. Now I know in my lab I have no aborted, DQ'd, or unknown disposition calls whatsoever, so that's why I remove them from the examples, but certainly in a production environment, those could certainly bear some fruit. Once again, just obviously playing with colors and just listing it out in bar chart versus a line chart by day of week. I didn't get too sophisticated here with breaking all these down additionally like I did with the counts widgets. But certainly I did segregate all of the service level percentages into their own widget as well. And we'll just go take a quick look at those. So I am looking at the handled, met and missed service level percentages, as well as the abandonment, and then the overall met and missed. So that's what's being plotted here in this bar chart right here. If once again, if there are any anomalies, we can certainly strike them out. You can very easily hover you can easily hover over the bars or the line pointers to actually see what the statistical type is that it's representing. So if you can't, maybe if the colors are too close and you can't see, and maybe you're have an issue with orange, you can certainly hover over that one to actually see that it is abandoned missed service level. So it looks like on that Wednesday, as we can also see in the percentage up above here, we can certainly see Wednesday with a lot of abandonment and no handled. Okay, so that looks good there. Obviously, yeah, I'm just keeping this by day of week, and certainly obviously utilize the additional time frames as well. If I wanted to break this down to hour of day for current week or previous day or quarter hour of day, most certainly I can do that as well. And as always, our widgets are very caterable. So I mean, if we needed to make these larger, more representable for for permalinks or broadcasting onto large television monitors, we can certainly do that as well. That's nothing new. All right, sliding down, now I'm going into times, our third option here, which has the most of the data elements to select from. So I started with just this, I call it one, but these two here, which are the same, but I'm keying off of just these main times. So queue, hold, talk, work, and connect time for the averages. And then obviously, once again, plotting that over a bar or a line chart, and then representing y-axis the time of those averages. Certainly hovering over them, it will denote exactly what it was, what day, and what the time was for that element. And can always strike those out if need be, if there are any anomalies. So if I want to strike out average queue time, let's say it looked like it was a little high on Wednesday, but most certainly we do know there was a lot of abandonment on that Wednesday. It's also being represented here in this line graph as well. Okay, so these are the same. But now also I kind of wanted to segue this one then into abandonment times. So certainly abandonment is something that definitely needs to be kind of monitored within the UCM environment, a CCX environment. So certainly we have the availability to add these in or kind of widget off of these as well. So in these times, I'm solely specifying just these 6 abandoned times. Most certainly I could add some additional averages or some maxes if I wanted to, but for this demonstration, I just went with these 6 for now, and then plotting them as well in a line graph as well. But same methodology still applies here. Hovering over these bars, we will denote exactly what that information is for, what day it's from, what that time, what that average time, what that queue time was, or that connect time or ring time. And then even lastly, for I suppose the time examples here, I'm going with a max times. So I grabbed some of the max times because I want to know when are my max queue times, when are my max hold times or connect times, and plot them accordingly. Certainly, I'm kind of bearing same on column D and column C and D here, if you will, with regards to only using this day of the week. But once again, I can always use different time units and elements for the construction of these widgets for whatever time frame, for whatever audience that we need to present to, or even have it running on a live routine. And as always, obviously this board is solely just this one widget mainly, but can easily have, a board like I have right here that has many elements within it, building all of this good fun stuff out. So now that is our newest CCX Csq widget. So nextly, I will speak to our update to the real-time agent widget. Now what we have baked into here is actually some additional sorting. So let me show you that. So I will edit the real-time agent widget that actually is real-time, that has a finesse connection. So now we have in here a sort by table. So we can certainly, by default, it will adhere to agent name and will not be specific to the status. So now we can actually kind of sort that secondarily. So maybe I want to pick on current state with reason, then sort it by, I don't know, maybe then by agent name. But the agent state ordering I want is of paramount. So I definitely probably want my readies towards the tops and the not readies maybe towards the bottom potentially. So we can certainly sort that now, and it will sort them by the readies. There we are. And even if I want to give a quick example, of course, my lab's logged out at the moment. This widget is actually real time, as I had mentioned. So I do have my finesse connection up right now. So I do want to just kind of showcase that real quickly, if I may. Okay, so we can see here that this widget, we are now sorting from ready and by agent name. So Victor and myself are actually in the ready mode, but I'm going to go to not ready mode. So that should automatically make me red, make me not ready, and then shoot me down the sorting list. And there it goes. As you can see, just one more example there of the instantaneous updates of our real-time agent widget with finesse connections. So, okay, that is there. Okay, so that is the new CSQ and the real-time agent sorting updates. So now we're going to segue into our analytics deliverables. So I will actually now what do I actually mean by deliverables? I mean by report deliverables. So whether or not we're running ad hoc reports, whether or not we're running, there's automated reports running for UCM, for CCX, we have new bells and whistles for those deliverables. So let me actually, in this UCM cluster, just pick on this one sample report here. So what we actually have now is report repository deliverable links. And what do I mean by that? So what that actually means is in the delivery option of an ad hoc report or a scheduled report run, we certainly can now use the repository option as a deliverable. Normally, it always was a file attachment, a PDF or HTML, whatever the format may be. But now we can actually deliver a link as opposed to a file attachment. So we can deliver that, whereas the user can just click on that link within their email, and it'll automatically download that report to their machine. But as always, we can certainly still deliver file attachments on the emails as well. But repository, I do want to make one more reference of this. The repository. What is repository? I'm so glad you asked that. The repository actually now is thusly a report repository that we have. We can actually run reports solely to there that can be harvested later, or even those reports in the repository, which is right next door in our report bucket here. So we can look at the report repository underneath this cluster. For myself, I can see reports I have entertained that I have ran on. Let me pump this up for everyone's eyes. We can see the reports for myself for the current week that I have ran against any cluster. I could be specific to report names, but certainly this is my own history of report runs. So whether or not they're on-demand ad hoc report runs or if they've been automated and scheduled. Certainly from here, we can see kind of the status with the pass or fail, but also what I can do is I can turn on URL access and actually create a URL link, downloadable link to be chatted off or emailed off to somebody secondarily so that the application necessarily doesn't need to rerun that report against the database and use up resources on the system. These can very easily be regenerated or downloaded here because they will not be reran off the system. But even just the the kind of the complete pass or fail is of some good troubleshooting importance. Okay, with the deliverables of the reports and whether or not you're using attachments, file attachments, or you're using repository links. Excuse me. Let me jump back on deliverable. We have the option to now go ahead and update. Excuse me. Email. There we go. So by default, we were always kind of auto-generating the file attachment. We were always auto-generating the email subject and the file name. So now we give the availability to allow the users to go ahead and construct or overwrite more specific email subject and or file names for the report deliverables. So just want to make everyone aware of that. Okay, so another deliverable that we have as well, excuse me, is going to be SVG charts in our HTML report formats. Now, as everyone probably may be aware of, on our PDF reports, that used to only be the only report format that would support our chartings, like such. But the limitation with PDFs certainly is the truncating or chopping of columns. So if we're like troubleshooting something and we're kind of looking through, for instance, some of our C2G or cradle to the grave records or sequences, we'll certainly see in PDF there's a max limit. And I'm chopped off after final called party number. Well, I certainly know that there's more columns that are in this data tables in these C2G sequences that I need to analyze. Maybe I need to look at the originating and terminating cause code, the analytic scenarios, some on behalf of some redirection columns and definitions. Certainly those are baked into the report, but PDF doesn't give us the luxury of having those. So that same exact report I have here in HTML, and obviously, Adobe and HTML will look a little different. Let me pump this up just a smidge. So the same information, it's the hunt group report I'm utilizing, but now we have the capability to also have the charting within these, but then also not be limited to the columns. So all the C2G records, if I can get to them, You can see them here, all the detail columns. I am not limited as I am in the PDF. So I've got all my, I think the last on the PDF, it was chopping me off at final called party number. Obviously in HTML, I can see all the columns that I have specified for this report. And so if I needed to get into the C2G or the cradle to grave sequences and look at some of the more particular fields, maybe I'm looking for the last redirect DN, maybe I need to identify these cause codes and see where the normal call clearing code is sitting on, which side direction of the table is that. Certainly within the HTML reports now, we can bake in the charting, the SVG charts, in addition to obviously always having the full layout of all the data elements. So that is definitely a plus for us. Let me see. And next, one of the next enhancements I will talk about, which is going to be, pardon me, is going to be a secondary grouping section that we have on accounting. Here it is. So what this actually is, accounting call type. Now, this, if anyone is aware of, kind of relates to our rate tables. So underneath the system section, if we are utilizing rate tables, some built rates to identify maybe direction of traffic, if we want to see an actual kind of call type referenced within the reportings, we can certainly kind of build these out and then use these call types to be secondary grouping options as an accounting call type. So if we're kind of grouping the statistics of a whatever report based off of an originator terminating bidirectional device name, we'll have the secondary option to key off of its accounting call type if defined under rate tables. So we can certainly speak to that if anyone wants to have that discussion or that walkthrough. We certainly can. All right, and last but not least, I suppose I will segue over to our DID management. So the couple new bells and whistles in here, nothing too extreme. Our last release actually incorporated the international support for the DID numbers. So that has definitely been helpful for the international customers. But what we also have now in the configure section underneath DID is searchability. So we definitely know that if you loaded up and imported, 100 DID blocks, certainly it would be a little cumbersome to kind of scroll through all of them and have to edit them one by one. Whereas now we actually have a sort option where we can pick on the DID site and it be specific and shrink the list here for us for any edits or manipulations that may be needed to these DID blocks. So they can have multiple sites in here as well. And there are some other bulk tools coming down the pipeline in the near future that I will not speak to. But the nice good thing also with regards to this update for the 12.2.3 within DN, and I will take you there real briefly. Let me pick on a Chicago example. We'll run this pretty wide open. Is going to be the DN number status. So this column right here. So certainly before we were running some searches in people's environments, and we would see where we would get actually a DID came back with maybe multiple results or one result versus the other based off of these status flags. Certainly this inactive unassigned would show up underneath others. That has been cleaned up, but we have also now included this directory number status because certainly DNs can live on multiple partitions, multiple devices, and be active or not active on one or another. So certainly that is definitely beneficial to kind of see and know that, okay, all right, this DN of 1100 is not assigned anywhere, but it's on a none partition that probably needs to be cleaned up. But certainly we can see its active and programmability here on this one right here being assigned to this agent. Okay, and as always, that we have had for a couple of releases as well, we do have the called party transform mask. So for the translations, we're also going to be able to see kind of what those translations and masks are within the DNs for the environment. That will pair true for DN as well as the DID management. Okay, so I suppose I'm running a little light on content for 12.2.3, but this release we did get out prior to the end of the year of 2020, but it is a fantastic release with a lot of great new bells and whistles, so I definitely encourage everyone to take advantage of it. Mike, I think I'm about out of time, so I'm going to pass it back over to you, sir. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Let me move some around here. Okay, so we're finished with the demonstration. Great job as always, Matt. If you guys have any other questions about what you saw today, feel free to contact us at support@verify.com. Reach out to your account manager. Time, for some QA. Matt, not a lot of questions came through. I think you're pretty thorough on what you covered. Just a couple questions regarding the upcoming cloud and cube reporting.
Yes. Yeah.
Can you shed some light on that?
I can, yes. So our cloud offering is, I believe, EFT by the end of this month. However, I do believe it will be in offering in March. I don't have an exact date on that just yet, but certainly it will be out by end of Q1 here of 2021. So that is definitely on the horizon, and that will be coming very shortly. We probably will be reaching out to some of the customer base for any discussions with this. Definitely, I have personally had some conversations with some clientele looking to potentially move their on-prem solution to our hosted cloud offering for the analytics and all that good reportability. So that will be coming down the pipeline in the next few months. So if you're there's something that maybe entertains you, we can certainly have that conversation. Just as Mike mentioned, reach out to your account manager or support@verify.com. And then after that, a few months down the line, then we will be releasing the Cube support for Cube iOS. So a lot is in the works with that. We are still that is still in development, but we are pretty excited about that offering as well. And that will also actually have the same kind of reportability that everyone is kind of used to in the analytics from the UCM or the CCX perspective. The kind of the analytics report approach for the reporting mechanism will be the same. But we can certainly cover that later once we get closer to those release dates. But thank you for that question.
Perfect. Yeah, and one thing we're pointing out, the cloud is not forced. So if you prefer an on-prem solution, that's still you can still keep your Verify on-prem and not in the cloud.
Oh yeah, that is correct. Not forced at all, and actually, it's definitely dealer's choice or
both too, for that matter too. If you want some in the cloud, like the UCM, but you want to keep GCX.
Correct. I suppose I should make a quick little reference to that. Yeah, I know we're late on time, but yeah, with regards to our cloud offering, now everything all of our modules, everything cannot go into the cloud or be quote unquote cloudified. So I mean, the analytics most certainly can, but like for instance, the remote phone control, the DN management and stuff like that, that will need to reside in the CCX reporting. That will need to still reside on-prem. Just as an FYI on that, and we can certainly discuss that when need be.
Yep. Perfect. Last question just came in from Bill asking about dark mode.
Dark mode, that's funny. Dark mode is currently not supported at the moment. However, that's not to say that we couldn't down the line. If we want, we can certainly put that suggestion into the developers, and we can talk about maybe formulating that into our roadmap. But at the moment, it is not supported, and it is not on the near-term roadmap. But that's not to say that we cannot do it. It's actually being mulled around right now, honestly.
Yeah, it is. But if more people want it or ask for it, then it will be released. And then the last question from Bill, he asked if the session's recorded. It is recorded. We will be posting it, I think, in the next upcoming days. It is all the past webinars are available on our website, verify.com/webinars or /company/webinars. Down below, we post videos from our previous past webinars.
Correct, broken down by module styles, but yes.
And then, as Matt was showing on top of the page, you can, if you have any suggestions or for webinar topics as well for future webinars, definitely put them in there. Cool. All right. And I think we're good. Let's wrap it up with the Amazon winner. Matt, I'll take back control.
Go right ahead. I'm stopping sharing.
There we go. All right. The winner of today's Amazon gift card is, one more click, Chris Allison. Congratulations, Chris. I will have your account manager reach out to you to get you that gift card.
Woohoo! Congratulations, Chris. Go ahead, Mike.
Wrapping up everything, I want to thank everyone for attending today's webinar. We do live webinars every Wednesday. Our next webinar is on January 20th at 11 o'clock in the a.m. Pacific time. Matt and I will be switching roles, and we'll be going over the new UCCX, or more in depth, covering the new UCCX wallboard features in 12.2.3. So thank you, everyone, for attending. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you all. Take care.